it is okay to change. I think so often we don't allow ourselves to do 180s, right? Like we know, for instance, if we know we're on a dark path and we know uh, we're surrounding ourselves with negativity, if we understand that we can change a full 180 tomorrow.
The future of dentistry belongs to the innovators. Welcome to Innovation in Dentistry. I'm your host, Sean Zayas, and I believe that the future of dentistry is going to be unbelievably great over the next decade and 2 decades. But the question isn't that. The question is, are you going to be part of what makes dentistry great? Okay, so I am as excited as I probably could be because today I have the honor of getting to interview the one and only Melissa K. Turner. Don't Google Melissa Turner. No, I'm just joking. So before I really dive in and set you up, Melissa, I would just like to say thank you for letting me interview you today.
Thank you, Sean. And yeah, you don't want to Google Melissa Turner because there's some crazy things in the news right now, and it's not me, I swear.
So literally that's what I did because I was like, hey, let me just do some research. You know, I know Melissa, I know she's a huge deal. So for anyone listening, what does Melissa not do? Like, so I had to write it down because I was like, okay, so you're doing the I Woman podcast. You do the Dentistry's Gone Wild podcast. You're the host of the Denobi Awards, the host of the National Mobile and Teledentistry Conference. And I think there's 2 other things, but I didn't even capture what they were. What are those other ones?
You know what? I kind of lost track, but it's a lot. It is, but the bottom line is that I'm having fun, and it all kind of goes together. It all kind of correlates with one another, and the bottom line, Sean, is to move dentistry forward in a way that makes positive change. And I'm sure we're going to dive into that later, but that's the bottom line of everything.
Well, so the reason why I have this podcast, Melissa, is because I am fascinated with innovation. But there's so many different ways innovation can go, right? There's technological innovation, where there's just this technology that comes along and all of a sudden, bam, dentistry is no longer the same. And there's clinical innovation where all of a sudden, you know, some pioneer discovers like a better way to do something in the mouth and they just start creating beautiful whatever, all on 4, all on something. But for this podcast, I'm just fascinated by what is it that causes like dental professionals to say, hey, why can't I just be the change that I see? Like I see a problem, why can't I step up? And there's nothing wrong with staying in the op as a hygienist or as a dentist. But for those that have that kind of hunger and they're like, yeah, but I think there's more. I just feel this like there's like that is you in a nutshell. You're a hygienist, but you're so much more than that. And you just stepped up and pioneered positive change. Why? Like, tell me your story of how you went from even just being in dentistry to all of a sudden leading and pioneering the way that you are.
Mm-hmm. You know, and where to begin? But I mean, I will begin somewhere, but the story of my life, and there's a lot of things that people don't know, people do know, and time will come and I'll reveal those things and it'll be exciting and you'll be shocked. But the things in my life
Wait,
have
so much mystery there. Like that is so awesome. I'm still not going to tell you yet, but it's coming someday. You'll get to know.
just not ready yet, Sean. I'm not ready
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
But those things in my life, and we all have those things. You have those things. Everyone listening have those things. These pivotal moments that have kind of shaped who you are. And if you look back on my life from little on up, those moments have always been where I was an outsider. I was an outsider in a lot of different ways in my own community, in my own family growing up. And then even when I started in dentistry, I still felt like an outsider. And part of that is because, like you've been saying, I'm a big picture person and I see where things are going. I see the change that has to take place and that needs to take place. I see the pain in the people around me and I see the need there. And so my heart, the bottom, the core, the most deepest part of my heart is to kind of take a society, take a community and say, hey, we need to change. We're going to go here. Now let's get there, and let's get there as fast as we can, because it's going to be better for everyone once we're there. And so I think me being an outsider always in my life and kind of feeling that way in clinical dentistry has allowed me to kind of take that burden and carry the burden, and be like, okay, like let's be inclusive. Let's learn how to be diverse in dentistry. Let's learn how to move the needle forward instead of just sticking with tradition all the time. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's the nutshell that I can give right now.
So this is the thing, Melissa. Like I literally talked about, I don't know, maybe it was the second or third episode, because the first four I just recorded as like foundations of innovation. But then since
Mm-hmm.
then, I've just been interviewing amazing innovators like yourself. And in one of those early ones, I was like literally talking about how there's these moments that people almost wish they could erase from their life. And what they don't realize is those are the moments where there's gold, where they can find out, okay, what gift did I get from this adversity, from being excluded?
Mm-hmm.
And now that you're like, look, I'm just owning, I was excluded for so long growing up
Mm-hmm.
and even in dentistry. So now I'm taking that almost chip on my shoulder or the gift that was given and saying, I'm going to include people and I'm going to lead and pioneer to a future where there isn't going to be people that get excluded, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is amazing, because it's like I always want to encourage people, like, discover what it was about your upbringing, your perspective on life, your unique experience. And that's where the true gold is, where you can identify, hey, this is who I am as an authentic brand. Here's my authentic message, because it's going to come from a place that's deep inside. And I see that when you share that, there is such a resonance to like, oh, this is who Melissa is. And there's power in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's power and there's connection and authenticity. And if there's two things that, could be all about what I am, it's authenticity and communication, and just connecting with people. And I think, and you could probably relate to this too, but I knew who I was, and then I had kids, and I realized, oh my goodness, like now I need to fight forward faster than ever to build a legacy, to make the world right for my daughters, for my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old, right? Like it's one of these things where, okay, I was just living life and doing good things. And then I had kids, and I'm like, okay, we have to do this major reset, because now there's a huge purpose in life. And who knows, if my kids are going to be in dentistry someday, maybe they will, but hopefully the trickle effect of what I'm doing and going to do in my career will kind of, come down to them, and they'll have a better life and a better career because of it. That's what I can hope. Yeah.
So Melissa, when I see you, I honestly was just like, man, like the heights that you've risen to and the impact that you're already making, I just would have assumed that you are like 100% just a career woman. And not that there's anything wrong with that. So to
Mhm.
know that you are balancing your impact
Mhm.
even with raising children, like, wow, I just want to honor you for that.
Thank you.
That is no easy job. Like I think just being a mom in general is probably one of the hardest things in the world, and balancing that with what you're doing in dentistry, like I'm not wearing a hat, but if I was, I would take it off for you right now.
Thank you. That means a lot. I mean, you're one of these people that's super encouraging, and you know that about yourself. And so don't you dare make me cry on this, because I'm about to. But I have to tell you what I did this morning. So my kids are home from school now. This is the first full week that they're home from school. And usually when we have these transition times, it takes a while for my work schedule to really catch up and realize, oh no, the kids are home all day long. How am I going to have a full day of meetings if I have to give them lunch, right? So today was one of those days where, oh my goodness, I had to do a content photo shoot, with products and things like that. I have back-to-back meetings, and my kids, they're great, but they just need some help every once in a while, right? They need me to get lunch. And so I was walking around writing the script for this photo shoot, video shoot that I was doing, while I was blowing a huge pink tube floaty. I was blowing that up while I was writing the script. I'm like, this is classic, like work from home mom mode. And I love it. I wouldn't give it up for anything. It's stressful, but I wouldn't give it up for anything.
I almost wish you did a vlog just so we could peer into the craziness, but that's life. And that's the beauty of it. Like, I think so many people even wait. The parallels between being a parent and stepping up and innovating positive change are so like beautifully connected. a lot of people talk to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm not ready to be a parent yet. I'm not ready. I don't have all my ducks in a row." And I'm like, "You're never going to be, because the kids that you end up having, they don't have a playbook. Like there's no, oh, this is how you raise this one versus this is how you raise this one. You have no idea. You just have to kind of lean into and trust, I'm going to figure it out." And in that same exact way, with innovation, with trying to bring value into the marketplace, there's no playbook that says this is exactly how it's going to work out. Now, again, you've done so many different things. Like, I'm guessing you're just as human as the rest of us. Like at one point in time when you were starting this, were you just like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, what if it doesn't work?" Like, did you hear those voices of like, "Melissa, who are you to do this?" Or "You're not enough?" Or did you just like didn't have to block any of those things out because, I don't know, maybe maybe you're special, or maybe that's just not something you ever struggled with?
No, that's something I constantly struggle with, but I don't even know I'm struggling with it, right? It's one of those things where I think I'm good, I think I can do things, and I go do things, and then a year or 2 later, I'm like, "Oh my god, like, that was freaking fantastic. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I had that much power to change that situation. I can't believe, that social media post got 60,000 views," right? It's those things that I'm like, "Oh my goodness," like, it's only in retrospect can I start to see the value of my own life. And so, yes, to answer your question, I'm always struggling with that, always struggling with it. And I think that's where, my life partner, Andrew, my husband, Andrew, and certain really close friends and mentors around me can help speak that life into me. And that's something that is so valuable. Isn't There's a phrase, there's a saying, I'm not really good with sayings, but there's a saying that's something like, you are the 5 people who surround you, right? You are them. Like, that is what's going to come out of your attitude, of your aura, of your vibe, the 5 closest people that surround you. And I fully believe that. And I fully, going forward, I'm only going to keep close the people that do breathe life into me and help me understand myself and the difference I can make. Um, I remember probably about 8 years ago, one of these people said to me, "Melissa, what's your 10-year plan? Where are you going to be in 10 years?" And it was right when I had just had my first kid, and I had like, I didn't want to work clinical anymore. And so I'm like, what else can I do? And I knew I was student council president in high school. I was like planning all these events. I'm like, I knew that I wanted to be some kind of a leader, maybe a public figure in dentistry. I just didn't know how to get there. I also didn't feel like I was accepted. See, there's that running theme. So I'm like, well, why don't I just start this 10-year trajectory, make a 10-year plan, and kind of carve my own path and do some A/B testing, some beta testing, throw things out there, see what comes back, and see what dentistry is ready for, and see what they accept at this point. And so that was a pivotal moment. And when he asked me that question, what my 10-year plan was, Sean, I I knew I didn't have one because I had never done that before. I never had thought really that my life was valuable enough to have these goals and to go after them and to really strive for making a huge difference that I knew I could make. And so I told him, I said, I have no clue how to answer that question, but I'm going to work on that answer. I'm going to work on trying to figure it out and have a path and have these objective goals. And so I'm well on my way in that, and it really feels good. Like I said, looking in retrospect and understanding, okay, this is my path and I can make change, and I hope I can inspire my kids and those around me to also kind of be that positive light in life.
So you actually went where I was just about to go, because I'm like, as I was listening to your response right before this, I'm thinking, well, I'm super curious, like, what what was that transition from I'm a hygienist, I'm in dental, and now all of a sudden I'm aware that there's something more. Um, because like one of the things I like talking about is that before we can believe in something, we actually have to be aware of it. So almost like we have to be able to conceive of something is possible before we can even start believing, well, why not me? Right? Like, can Melissa Turner bring, sorry, Melissa K. Turner,
Melissa K, yes.
can she bring her strengths to bear, be aligned in who she is, and show up in dentistry in a way that is true to who she is and blaze just a trail that's you, and
Mhm.
will the market respond?
Mhm.
And I love that, as our listeners will know, like there was no guarantee at that moment that it was going to work out. There was no guarantee that you stepping up, stepping out, deciding to start doing anything was going to resonate with the marketplace.
Mhm.
How did you handle that uncertainty and that just simply unknown?
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's where I thrive, in the unknown, in the uncertainty. And I don't know if that's a talent. I don't know if that's a flaw. It's yet to be really, understood, at least for myself. But uh my husband, and he wouldn't mind me saying this, he doesn't want to talk about himself, but I'll talk about him. But he's one that doesn't take risks. He works in with the government. It's a systemic, function organization, and he thrives in that. He doesn't know how to take risks. He doesn't know how to make things from scratch, build businesses, build brands. And through kind of watching him be like, "Oh my gosh, Melissa, I can't believe you did this or you did that. I could never do that." I began to realize that that uncertainty, that unknown, is what makes me thrive. And I'm getting so excited just thinking of it. So, on the, a lot of people know me for uh, being a hygienist, and for the public facing side of me, which is the traditional key opinion leader, speaker, and then the influencer side. But what most people don't know is that most of my time is spent working in innovation with product and service and technology companies behind the scenes. I'm an executive consultant, I'm a fractional executive officer for, some of the biggest brands in dentistry. I work with them behind the scenes, building products and launching products and working on brand strategy. And so that's, for me, that's where I thrive the most, because innovation is unknown. It's uncertainty. And my favorite companies to work with actually are startups, because I've been there. But also, it's, if you're a startup, if you're in the first 2 to 3 years of launching a product, or building a brand, or getting a 510K FDA approved, you're constantly living in uncertainty and unknown. And it's one of these things where I love to witness it. I don't always want to be completely like a part of it because it's stressful, but I love to witness the growth that comes through these founders like yourself, who have this passion, who want to create this product or this technology, and who see it through to the end, and who have to live that uncertainty for years and years and years. And that can be tough to watch sometimes. But for me, that's where I thrive. And so a lot of what I do when I work with startups is I'll come alongside the founder and I say, "Hey, I've seen this before. You're not alone. Let's morally help you move along, get the support you need, make sure you get the sleep that you need, and I'll help you come along and like figure out the right messaging to launch the product and help build it so that it is successful when it is time to kind of have certainty and launch the product." So I think I do like uncertainty. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
So was that something you were aware of? Like, meaning, like, when did you connect the dots to, like, man, most people, I really think, are wired more like your husband.
Mhm.
And I would even say most people in dental. And I don't
Mhm.
mean that as an offensive statement to dentists. I'm just saying, like, it's always good to acknowledge, okay, so if this is more of the way I'm disposed to,
Mhm.
then I probably do need people's help that can function in this with a lot more grace, a lot more latitude, a lot more
Mhm.
expertise.
Mhm.
Because I read a lot of Seth Godin. I just like the way he thinks,
Yeah.
and he's constantly talking about the fact people actually don't want more freedom.
Mhm.
Like the reality of freedom is actually what terrifies people,
Yep.
because you can do anything you want to do. Wait. What do you mean? You can do anything you want to do. Like, you can start a podcast, you can start a movement, you can start events, you can start a company that doesn't exist in dentistry to solve the problem that only you see. But with that comes the responsibility of, like, well, but it's on you. Like, are you going to do something about it? But that's terrifying, because it's like, oh, like, I'd almost rather know I I have to follow this proven path.
Mhm.
There's safety in this certain tried and true
Mhm.
method, course of action. And I think a lot of people like that. You're saying, hey, like, blow all the rules off, blow everything off. I am still going to function super well when freedom,
Yeah.
there is no constraints except what's ethical
Yeah.
and with what the market will either reward or
Mhm.
say, no, you need to iterate. Like, that's why I love the way you think, Melissa, because you
Mhm.
are that classic visionary entrepreneur that can really dance in that tension of
Mhm.
what is not yet
Mhm.
and say, okay, like you even said this when you were starting, let me just see what the market's going to say. And then I can just kind of be agile and iterate. Like,
Mhm.
that is like advanced thinking that it takes even some entrepreneurs decades to figure out. Oh my gosh, learning isn't in the boardroom.
Mhm.
Learning is in the marketplace when the marketplace says, change this up a bit,
Mhm.
or we don't really resonate with that.
Mhm.
Like, did you always see yourself as an entrepreneur? When did you connect the dots and you're like, oh my gosh, this is just who I am?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if it's still. People ask me what I do, and I say, I'm a speaker. It's always with that inflection at the end, because I don't know what I do, because I'm just having fun. But I have to credit my family, my parents, for who I am today because they have always been entrepreneurs. They were small business owners. They would own one thing and then own another thing and then own another thing and kind of just hardworking make their way and carve their own path. And I think looking back on my life, those that was life changing for me, to see them make their own decisions about things, take to see them buy a business and say, okay, we're going to completely change this business, do what we want to it and make it succeed. I that that witnessing that was probably, what led me to who I am today. And then the one thing that I have always known about myself is that I color outside the lines all the time. If there is if everyone's doing this over here and I find myself in that group, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk over here and kind of do this over here because I don't want to be mainstream. I don't know why, but I want to continue to pull the group over here to what I'm doing and move things along. So I always color outside the lines, except when I need to keep the peace, right? Then I'll color inside ethically, right? I'll color inside the lines. One of the things that I think is kind of lacking in dentistry right now are those people who are bridging the generational gaps. So we have the more traditional dentists and dental hygienists and dental professionals, and then we have the more progressive, the younger ones. And I feel like it's very important to have, and I put this burden on myself, is to have people who can connect the two generations because we need to pull from the tradition to innovate, to make change, to help lead the really young ones that are just entering the the industry. And so that's when I also color inside the lines is to help connect, to help bridge the gap between generations and not even just generations. But one of the things that I love about the conference that Sonia Dunbar and I founded. It's called the National Mobile and Teledentistry Conference. One of the things I love about it, and I'm super biased because it's my own conference, it's my own brand. So, of course, I'm going to be biased, but it pulls together people in dentistry who otherwise would not come together at all. So it pulls together the public health dental practices with the private practice dentists. First of all, that never happens. And it also pulls together the DSOs and it pulls together the hygienists who own practices. And we're all on the same page. And so to me, that is a huge step towards innovation. There's no ego at that conference. Everyone is on the same page trying to move dentistry forward. And to me, that's one of my favorite times of the year because I can sit back and I can watch these groups come together that would never, ever communicate outside of this event. So yeah, color inside the lines, color outside the lines. I'll do whatever needs to happen to kind of make things move forward.
Melissa, you're just a great example of like just being true to who you are and playing to your strengths. Like, one of the analogies, or I don't even know if it's an analogy, but just like a visual expression. I even shared it with you when we just met up at DEO,
Mhm.
was that like the future I see is that we're all kind of holding the same line, wanting to advance dentistry. And when you look to the right or left of yourself, you'll see that there's some vacancies where people haven't stepped up yet to be who only they can be.
Mm.
And you don't know what could happen when we're not meeting these people at conferences, when we're not meeting them in networking, because they're still trying to get over their own shit, so to speak, of like, am I enough? Can I play it big? Can I step up? And I do empathize. I'm not trying to be harsh. Like,
Mm.
I probably could have stepped up a lot sooner had I not listened to that voice on my side saying, like, who are you? You know, all that self-doubt. But what I'm encouraging people to do is, like, when you dial in like who you are and what's unique about the way that you were made, your perspective, it it's not trying to be somebody. No one can be Melissa K. Turner. Like, this is just who you are. You have the savvy to know when to innovate, when to color outside the lines, and then at the same time the wisdom to be like, I want to honor those that went before us.
Mm.
I want to honor those that have already pioneered and that got dentistry where it's at today. But we don't want to just be like, look, we're beyond you. We don't need you anymore. Let's unite, and then let's bring the older generation and the younger generation,
Mm.
and together let's make dentistry all that it can be. Like, I've never heard someone share that vision. That is just like, that is so inspiring. Thank you so much. And I didn't know what you were doing behind the scenes with startups and with different companies that are wanting to launch innovative products and everything. Like, you are the perfect person for that. Again, I just keep finding you're playing the games
Mm.
that you were meant to excel at, where you can bring value, where you can shine.
Mm.
And you're like, I want to interview people like you, because this is what I'm trying to tell other people. Like, hey, look what Melissa did. You can do it. Now, question, did you ever have like a season where there was like a dark night of the soul where you're just like, I don't know if I can keep doing this, because maybe traction was taking longer to catch on, or I don't know, maybe there was just more self-doubt. Like, did you ever have one of those moments where you were really, really low, and what did you do to get out of that? Because obviously you're here right now.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, that's something that I'm constantly fighting. I feel like we're all constantly fighting that. But I'll share with you, Sean, I think the launch pad that really got me where I am today was right after you say dark nights. Whew, right after I had my first kid, Maggie. She's 8 now, almost 9. She's like 9 going on 36. So I don't really know how old she is, but almost 10 years ago, we had moved to a new city in Minnesota, and I was 8 months pregnant, and we knew that
By
we
the way, I don't think you can say it that way. I think you need to say Minnesota.
Minnesota. My Northeast accent isn't going to come out then.
Sorry, I had to.
You had to. But we moved to Minnesota, and 8 months pregnant, first kid, freaked out. I was so scared, right? Didn't know anybody, didn't even have a house when we moved there. We lived out of an extended stay hotel for a couple of months till we got a house. Well, really, we moved into the house 2 weeks before she came, and she came early. Anyway, so this is like, I'm not going to tell the whole birth story. That's if you want to hear that, that's over a glass of wine or something. We can swap birth stories. But anyway, the dark moments came after that. There was an entire year of postpartum depression. And those, oh my goodness, if you haven't reached rock bottom, thank God that you haven't. Because when you do, your whole life changes. My whole life changed. But I'll tell you, I didn't even know if I was going to make it to another day, right? I remember on Maggie's 1 year birthday, I literally just like, she blew out. She was in her diaper outside. We gave her her first like cake, right? We're those parents. So she had it all over herself, and it was just a mess in her high chair. And I remember thinking to myself, I had this like big like sigh and almost a physical kind of like I don't know, a quiver of that just like released. And I literally thought to myself, oh my God, like, whew, I kept her alive for a year. Like, we're good now. We can move forward. And it was out of that, it was over that year of just darkness of, I mean, literal darkness because we were in northern Minnesota, but also mental and physical and emotional darkness. It was over that year that I really learned to fight. That was the launch pad to say, okay, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? And I wasn't working. That was when I kind of stopped working clinically full time. And I said, what can I do in dentistry that's not clinical that I can kind of help make change and be a leader? And so that is the mud and the mire and the murk, and that's the shit that happened where these beautiful plants are growing. That was the manure. Like, I come from farming community. I understand how you have to fertilize the ground and you have to live in shit for a while for things to really to get that fruit, to get that green, to get that luscious life that will grow from that. And so, one of the things, once people really get to know me, it's one of these things where until you've reached rock bottom, you, you might not know why you're living, but once you do, then you know why you live. And then you can also see in other people, oh my God, like, I know they reached rock bottom. I know that much. Like, you can sense it in other people too. But everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. And this is why you're doing this podcast too. So thank you. Thank you for having me on to share my story.
Well, Melissa, I'm just thinking, like, how many times have I changed the trajectory of where I was going because it was uncomfortable? You don't have the ability to tap out as a mom. I mean, okay, maybe you could have tried to through childcare or some other means.
Mhm.
But I'm saying oftentimes I feel like I've made this mistake, and I see other people do it, where it's like they want to get out of that discomfort instead of yielding to it
Mhm.
and allowing that coal to become a diamond, right? That's exactly
Mhm.
how diamonds are. They're just what, coal under extreme pressure over time. It
Mhm.
creates a diamond. And there's really no shortcut to that. And there's no other prescription to that. You emerged from that almost like a phoenix out of the ashes. Like, there's something I love about living here in Phoenix, and it's just the idea of the phoenix.
When I think of Harry Potter too, as you say that, we just finished reading that with my
Oh,
kids.
did you? But really, the fact that it rises out of the ashes, what you get as a backbone, as a I now have a cultivated resilience in me.
Mhm.
I now have a renewed mission, a renewed gratitude for the opportunity I have to be able to live this life because I'm not shrouded in darkness anymore.
Mhm.
And it's almost like you've emerged victorious, and you can almost dance with risk in a way where you're like, I'm not scared anymore. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm still normal. I'm still human, but almost like my greatest fear came upon me and I realized I'm victorious.
Mhm.
And I feel like that is even your message with I Woman. You have conquered, and then you're like, hey, who can I empower? Who can I release into the greatest version of themselves so they can find that same exact sense of fulfillment?
Mhm.
So thank you for not giving up during that crazy year. Thank you for not short circuiting it, for not taking the shortcut, but actually just walking through that and having the courage to do that as a new mom. That is such a difficult thing. Like, I remember, we have 5 kids. Postpartum depression is real. And I would tell all my friends that were guys, look, like, you kind of think everything leads up to the pregnancy. And
Mhm.
that's like the mountaintop. Yay, we had a baby. And you
Mhm.
don't realize, now what do you do with it? How do you make it feel cared for? Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into all that, but the fact, like, that is such a real thing. And even just giving women permission for it to be messy, and for them to have hormones, and for them to have dark times, instead of them feeling like there's something wrong with them. Like, there was nothing wrong with you,
Mhm.
you know? So I just want to honor you for that, Melissa. Thank you for overcoming, and then using everything you've learned to just elevate the people in dentistry.
Well, you're welcome. It's just what I meant to do. I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's funny. One of my favorite things to do. So I go to a lot of conferences, as you know. Um, and one of my favorite things to do is to almost prejudge somebody. Like, so for instance, if I see somebody who I don't know yet, um, who I've seen on social media, maybe interacted on social media or heard about, right? We all have this prejudge of who somebody is before we meet them. And one of my favorite things to do, Sean, is to just kind of like hang around that person for a couple of minutes and then start talking to them just to get their vibe or whatever, and then start talking to them. And in that first like 60 seconds of talking to this person who I've never, really interacted with before, the prejudgment, it just all changes. It completely changes. And that's one of my favorite moments ever in dentistry at these conferences. And I bring it up because, it's in those 60 seconds, those first 60 seconds of interacting with somebody where you realize they have a story, where you realize they're doing all they can to make positive change too, to make things, to innovate, whether it's through a product or mental health or something. We're just all trying our best. And so when I meet somebody for the first time, that's when it really comes to the surface. And it's those moments that I never want to forget because they're so precious. It's like, okay, I thought this person was one way, but no. Here's their story. This is what they're all about. And now we can move forward because it's going to take all of us. And you know this, it's going to take all of us working together and working parallel and working at different levels, high level, whatever, to really make innovation in dentistry happen, and as well as other industries too. But yeah, it's going to take all of us to move things along, and it is. It's just in the last, I don't know, even since COVID, but in the 20 years that I've been in dentistry, I've seen it change so much. And not that everything in dentistry was bad. No, but there are definitely innovation and improvements that we can make. And I am way off topic now, aren't I? I don't even
No,
know. How did I
no,
get here?
but so the cool thing is Melissa K. Turner just revealed that it only takes her 60 seconds to get past any pre-bias.
Don't hold me
That
to
is
that.
that is amazing. I know that two of my all-time best friends are people that I originally got offended by when I met them.
Really?
Yeah, because I misjudged them. They actually misjudged me. And it took us a while. Then all of a sudden, 3, 4, 6 months later, we're still around each other because we're in the same community, whatnot. And all of a sudden, we were just finally both open enough to see, wow, I didn't realize I totally bombed it with the way that I saw you. I thought you were this, and this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's amazing. It must, there must be some level of emotional intelligence that you have that maybe not just so you know, not everybody has that. That's amazing. But Melissa, going back to what I just told you, I thought you were pretty cool when I met you, but I was like, okay, Sonia, she's my girl. Me and Sonia,
She's
me
my
and
girl
Melissa,
too. Come on.
yeah. I was like, me and Melissa, I don't know. I don't think we're vibing at all. I think we're kind of pretty different. And then at the DEO, it's the first time I actually got to talk to you in a real way. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I even apologized to you because I was like, okay, it wasn't like it was, I thought you were bad, but I didn't realize how amazing of a person you are and how aligned you are to just serve and make dentistry great. You are such an inspiration. That's why I want to interview you. That's why I wanted to tell your story. And thank you for letting me. And no, you weren't off topic on that last one. Okay. So here's a question. In the last 10 years with this journey, was there a mindset that you had to shed, or what was one of the maybe more challenging ones for you to get to where you're at today? Either one that you had to shed or one that you embraced. Either one, either way.
Yeah, I think the idea of rejection was one that I had to shed. I mean, of course, don't get me wrong. I always am like, oh my God, are they going to like me? Right? Are they going to like what I do? Is this message that I put out into the community, is it going to be accepted? But what I've done is I've realized that if someone chooses to be a leader, it's going to be a lonely road, whether it's a leader in technology or speaking or any kind of position. It's going to be a lonely road, and it's going to be full of rejection. You're going to get rejected over and over and over and over again. And then you're going to have the one time where you don't get rejected and your career moves forward or your business moves forward. And so to me, what I've realized and what has helped me with the actual shedding of rejection is knowing that it's almost a numbers game. If we're finding sponsors for an event or a podcast or things like that, it's almost a numbers game just like that. If we reach out to 30 sponsors, we might get one back. And it's kind of the same mentality when I'm thinking of rejection and mindset. I'm going to try 30 different things before one thing succeeds. And along the way, people are going to reject me. Businesses are going to reject me. My abstract may not be accepted for, to speak at a certain event. But it's a numbers game. And so taking a step back and understanding the big picture of being like, okay, I just pick back up and try again. If somebody says no, that's the worst they can say. They say no, I move on. And so shedding, like being able to shed that rejection and help, I don't know, maybe quantify it, has really helped me move forward and not live in fear of what's going to happen. And I think that kind of correlates with the uncertainty that we were talking about earlier also. It's
Well,
just
I
one of
know
those
it
things.
also makes it less personal.
Yeah.
Because you care. So if you're going to be heart-centered and you're going to care, you can't care what the people that could reject you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because then that throws you off your mission,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes it so, like literally, as you were saying that, this is also why I do this podcast, because like I'm getting I don't know, blessed, I don't know what else to say, ministered to, because as you're saying that, I'm like, that is still something that I have struggled with. Like if I could name a mindset that I need to shed so I can go where I need to go over the next decade, that is still it for me. Like I have not succeeded in that. It's hard for me to detach that and make it impersonal
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't say something about me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love that you made that parallel to that's also business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not sugarcoating it. If someone's wanting to start a new idea right now, the idea of them hitting that grand slam on their first idea, it's so small. It is so small. It'd be better to just start with the expectation of, hey, if your 30th iteration is the one that's going to work,
Mm-hmm.
then please
Let's
fail
get
through
there.
those 1 through 29 as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Commit to it, sign up for the journey. There's going to be the crazy highs and lows, but if what you're doing is on mission, then you're going to continue doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is I mean, do I owe you something for that? Do I need to pay you for that that golden nugget that you just
Trademark
dropped?
it for me. Just start a meme or something. We're good. Well, but along with that too, Sean, and I want to make it clear, along with that, it's it's experience. It's being in this industry since I was a teenager, right? For 20 years. It's now understanding the players, now understanding how it works, how the relationships work, what it means to be a practice owner and have a team, what it means for DSOs to come in and landscape. A lot of this comes from just being exposed for 2 decades uh, with the ins and outs of the industry. And the same thing too, because I've had to, and this has definitely helped, because I've worked internally and been on advisory boards with a lot of different product and technology companies. I've been able to see the tries, those 29 tries before the 30th is successful. I've been able to see the fails and the reiterations that have to happen. And so, the mindset that I have, I don't expect everyone to have it, and especially not right away. It comes with just being exposed for long periods of time to these kinds of methods and to this mindset and to the business world, really. So I don't want people to think that like, oh my God, like how can I get there? How can I, how can I do that right away? But it'll come with experience and with time. It will.
But that's kind of like almost like circling back to the whole parenthood thing. Like just like the message to the audience is like, just start now.
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't know if I'm ready. You're ready enough. If you're a dental professional, you are smart enough, resilient enough, capable enough to, oh my gosh. Okay. So normally I don't like connect the dots between people, but I interviewed Manal
Yeah. Oh,
and
love
she
Manal.
said that she said that a therapist of hers or coach way back when said, if you are able to think of something, then you actually have the power to do it.
Oh, no
So like,
way.
meaning if you have if you think that maybe someday you could have an event and host it and lead, you actually have the power within you to do that. Like that's just like a wow. So our listeners right now, if they're thinking, because that's what I love, we're able to share things, but the real takeaways that people are getting are what's between the lines of what we're saying, what they're hearing in their head of like, that's the thing I need to do. That's the passion that I've been making excuses as to why I'm not doing it. And I just want to be like, forget the excuses. Like no one no one's looking at you, and no one's gonna like shame you if you step up and try something.
No. No.
Like just go. We actually like you and I, we want you to succeed.
Mm.
We want people to step up and own the gift of who they are and shine the light that only they can shine. So Melissa, if someone's listening right now and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like this," because one thing you can do because of your experience is you can actually help short. Really, there is actually shortcuts when it comes to like you can help someone
Totally.
identify instead of 29 tries, maybe it's just going to be 6 or
Absolutely.
7 because I can help with intelligence, with experience, really just yeah, I mean, it's the whole idea of parents saying that their ceiling becomes our floor. That's the whole point of
Mhm.
inheritance, of legacy, is to pass on to the next
Mhm.
generation so they can do a better job.
Mhm.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you and say, "Hey, I want to work with Melissa K. Turner," where do you want their eyes to go?
Well, any social media is fine. So the Tooth Girl on Instagram, you can slip into my DMs. That is perfectly okay. It might take a while to get back to you. But Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I am on TikTok, but it is confusing as hell. I have no idea what to do on TikTok. So don't reach out to me there. But you can do any other social media or go to my website at melissakturner.com. There's a contact form widget on there that comes directly to my team and they'll send it to me. And so that's probably the fastest way to get a hold of me. But then as soon as I meet you in person, I mean, I'll give you my phone number and we'll be texting every day. So there you go. BFFs forever.
Okay, so I have two
Yeah.
questions. One of them I've never asked,
Okay.
and the other one is kind of my classic close. So if we're looking at the next decade of your life, Melissa, and we're recognizing that it's like a chapter in the book of you,
Mhm.
what is that chapter titled?
Hmm. Well, I would think, and this correlates very well with our theme for our upcoming mobile conference in March. So our theme for that conference is Unleash. It's called Unleash 2024. And that is probably going to be my theme for the next decade too. Mostly because, so much of my life has been built around being a mom, being a parent, giving my kids, my all and showing them what it's like to be able to make change, but to be there for the kids. And so really right now I'm giving, I don't know, maybe 70% of my energy and my time to my career. But once my kids become more independent, once they can actually clean up their rooms and get their own snack, this sounds so simple, but that's when I can unleash. So I don't know if that's going to be when they're 13 or 21. I don't know. But that's when I can actually unleash and focus. I think I have ADD, ADHD. I don't know, but it takes a lot for me to try to get to focus. And so my kids are outside my door right now, and I'm like, oh my God, like, are they okay? Whatever, whatever. But once they're independent, then it's time for me to really sit down and unleash whatever it is I want to do at that point. I've got ideas. It's probably not going to be anything that I'm doing now. It's just completely different, but it'll still be in dentistry. But the title, Sean, will be definitely Unleash. But if that changes, I'll let you know because who knows? There's going to be a million chapters between between now and then as well, and who knows what those titles will be? I don't know.
Okay, so Melissa, can
Yes.
you picture yourself at age 18?
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking down the street,
Okay.
and off in the distance, you see 18-year-old Melissa K. Turner.
Mhm.
And you just have a brief moment to communicate one sentiment to her, to leave with her, like almost like to encourage her with for what is going to be ahead. What do you say to her?
I would say to her that it is okay to change. And this is one of the strongest themes in my life that I tell my kids, that I teach my kids, and also in my marriage and with any of my close friends. It is okay to change. I think so often we don't allow ourselves to do 180s, right? Like we know, for instance, if we know we're on a dark path and we know we're surrounding ourselves with negativity, if we understand that we can change a full 180 tomorrow and just make that choice to change, I think that's one of the biggest gifts that we can give other people, but also to ourselves. And I think one of the examples is when I was a really shy kid growing up. And when I went to high school, my parents gave me the choice to go to a new high school or stick with the ones that all my friends were going to. And I'm like, I'm going to go to this new high school and I'm going to kind of, do a 180, and I'm not going to be shy anymore. And on day one, I was, intentionally making friends and intentionally trying to, figure out what not shy Melissa is all about. And that was my first lesson, I think, in really allowing myself to change. And now, I mean, I'm changing all the time. I mean, as soon as I think I know myself, I'm like, okay, let's do this and see what this side of Melissa is about. So I think that's what I would tell 18-year-old Melissa is don't be afraid to change. Allow yourself to change whenever you want.
Okay, so that is beautiful on so many levels. So to the listeners right now, it's like I almost felt like you also just took out like some boxes. Like if you felt boxed in with the way that you're viewed as a
Oh
clinician, or
yeah.
if you felt boxed in the way that you're viewed as a leader, or just an owner in your own practice, it's like it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm,
Like Melissa K. Turner is giving you permission
mm,
to step up, to change, to embrace that identity that you know you can embrace that's true to who you are.
mm.
And it's going to bring more fulfillment. Melissa, seriously, it has been such an honor, and it's been so easy to honor you as an innovator, as someone that's really making a difference in dentistry. I love all the things you're a part of. I'm super excited to see what the next decade actually brings. And I just want to let you know, like, I am in your corner. I am like rooting for you to continue just to be the best version of you that you can be, so you can just shine that light and really just like give people the gift of who you are. So thank you for letting me interview you today.
Sean, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I really hope that, this conversation that you and I have and that you're having with every other guest can just you know, continue into the future, because these are the things that we don't often talk about in dentistry. So also thank you for giving this platform to all of us to tell our story.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow so you never miss an episode. To learn more about what's going on in dentistry, check out innovationindentistry.com.